Hello everyone, welcome to the motion graphics design class using Adobe After Effects. As you all know, today is our first day and I'm going to launch Adobe After Effects right away. Now I'm running Adobe After Effects 2020 and your version of Adobe After Effects may be different. So if you are running Adobe After Effects 2018, 2019, 2020 or 2021, which is the latest version, it's just a little difference in the functionalities available within these various versions. Then one other thing you should pay attention to is the fact that if you run your Adobe After Effects on a Windows laptop, the keyboard shortcuts for the Adobe After Effects on Windows is a little bit different from the keyboard shortcuts available on the MacBook Pro. So during the class, if there's any keyboard shortcut that is different from each other, I'm going to draw your attention to it. So don't be worried about that. Now, this is the user interface of Adobe After Effects, and this what it looks like when you launch Adobe After Effects for the first time. Now, the dialog box that is loading right now is trying to ask us if we want to create a fresh project from Adobe After Effects or we want to open a recent project that we have working on at any time. Now, because we don't already have a project we are working on, we are going to create a fresh project, a new project. So what you should do is click on new project to start a new project, and this is what Adobe After Effects interface looks like. This is the workspace. Now, the workspace we have here right now is not is too, jam-packed with panels. What do I mean by panels? These boxes you see over here are panels. All of these are panels. So we need to reset this to something that is freer than what you are looking at right now, so we'll be able to work very well. So how do we get the best workspace for our project? So what you should do at this time is go to Window, Workspace, then choose Effects. Effects is the best workspace to use to create any composition within After Effects. And if there are panels that are available within Effects workspace that you don't like, you can remove it. If there are panels that are available within the Effects workspace that are not, if there are panels that you don't have within the Effects workspace, you can add them by going to Window, then scroll down within the list over here, and you can add the panel you want. So in this case, if you notice, we have Preview, which is the preview panel you are looking at over here. So whatever you see in the list that is checked on the left side this way, then it means the panel is active, is available within the workspace. So if there's anyone you don't want, you can remove it by coming to the panel, then the three dashes you see over here, just right click on the three dashes, then say close panel. That's how to remove a panel. And if you want to return the panel, come to Window, then look for the panel you want to return. In this case, we are returning Preview. All right, so the next thing you want to do now is to create a new composition. And what is a composition? A composition is the place or the part of After Effects where you put your medias together to create your motion graphics design. So in this case, to create a new composition, you can click on this information that says new composition, or you come over here where there's a menu that says composition, and then you create a new composition that way. So right now there's a shortcut that says Command N. So that means if you use the shortcut Command N on your MacBook Pro, you will create a new composition. And if you're on Windows, that means you will use a shortcut that will be Control N. So right now we are going to create a composition, and you should give your composition a name. The composition name we are giving our composition right now is Intro. All right, so all of the settings you are looking at over here might be much, but you don't have to change all of the settings at the same time. It's just like learning to drive a car at the very first day. You are not going to learn how to use all of the stuffs you find within the car on that day. There are some things that you have to, maybe when you get to the express and so on and so forth. So same thing we have within After Effects here. There's some functionalities, some features, some options that you have to leave them the way they are, or you just have to change it at the right time you need them. So in this case, what we are going to do before we create our composition is go to presets. Now in the list of presets, um, there are different options in the list. Now, in many cases, when you are creating a composition, you should go for the one that says HDTV or HDV. Now, why do we have to choose this option? The reason we have to choose this option is because HDV or HDTV will give us high definition video, and that means the quality of our motion graphics design is going to be perfect for every screen, either big screen or small screens. So when you create a motion graphics design using After Effects and using either of these HDTV presets, HDV presets, that means you can play on a very large screen or your mobile phone. Now there are some other presets, or you can easily create your own custom presets by going to custom. So once you do this, that means you have a particular you have a specific reason you are creating a composition, or you are creating the motion graphics design. So it means you have to input all of these values manually, then it will give you the desired um, composition settings that you want. But in this case, we are going to choose HDTV 1080-25. So what this 25 means, you'll see very soon. Now, immediately we selected HDTV 1080-25. Our width and height took the value of 1920 by 1080. What this means is the frame size of our screen, of our screen would become a width of 1920 by 1080. So you see very soon, by the time I hit OK, you see what the width and the height is all about. Then the other thing you need to understand is the frame rate. Many times when you are creating motion graphics design, you have to select the frame rate of 25, which by the time you chose the HDTV 1080-25, the preset for frame rate 25 will be automatically chosen for you. So see what happens if you say HDTV 1080-24. The frame rate will change to 24. So always choose HDTV 1080-25, the one that has 25, or HDV 1080-25. So this is what we'll go for right now. Then the other thing you need to know before you hit OK is the duration. This is how long you want your motion graphics design to last. So by default, it is 30 seconds. How do I know it is 30 seconds? The first two digits you see here are the frames. Now this is the frame rate, but you understand what this frame rate is all about very soon. So the first two digits you see here is the frame rate. Then is the frame. It counts per frame. Then the other two digits over here is seconds. Then this other two digits here is minutes. Then the last one digit here is hour. Now that means if your normal time runs for 60 seconds per minute, that means by the time you get to 59, your time turns to 1 minute 100. That's the same thing as 60 seconds. So this 25 frames per second that we have here means this frame, once it gets to 25, our seconds turns to 1 second, and so on and so forth. But you see clearly how it works very soon. So now you hit OK. All right, then our composition is now set and everything is available for us to start working. Now our composition name, as we set it, is intro. Then like I told you, I said these are panels: the composition panel, the timeline panel, and the preview panel, and so on and so forth. This is our effects and presets. So whatever you don't understand now, just don't worry. As time goes on, you understand as things works in Adobe After Effects. Most of the options, the keys, the buttons, and everything you see in Adobe After Effects, you don't have to use all of them all at once. But as we go on within After Effects, you see what we have to make use of at the right time, and what we are not going to make use of. So the next thing you are going to see now is the tools panel. This is our tools panel. I'll not explain what all of the tools here, what they are being used for, but as we work within After Effects, we are going to make use of them one after the other, so you see what they do and how to make use of them. So like I also said, I said this is effects and presets. This is where you get your effects from, and the presets are effects that are already created within After Effects from before you install them. So you can also create your own presets too. So the next thing we want to do now is to import media. So when I say media, I mean we are importing videos, audios, and images. So that's what we need to start working within After Effects. Now, I mentioned a timeline. This is our timeline. This is our composition. All of the this blue rectangular line you can see around this panel means this is our composition. Then within this composition is the timeline. So the timeline starts from over here where you can see 0.00 second to where we have 30 seconds, because we said our timeline duration should be 30 seconds. So that's what we have over here. So the other time I was talking to you about frames per second, we have 25 frames per second. Now, what's frame? If you look at the blue line, if I bring the blue line to the very beginning of the timeline, you see that it shows 00 here. Then if I bring it forward a little bit, it shows 09. So this is 09 frames. And notice by the time I get to 23 and I move forward one step. To move forward a step, you hold Command or Control on your Windows keyboard, and you press the forward key on the keyboard one step at a time. Then it will start moving frame by frame forward. So look at the blue time over here, now shows 24. So by the time it gets to 25, it will be converted to exactly 1 second. You can see now. So that's our 25 frames per second. That's what it means. So now we are going to import media to Adobe After Effects to see what it looks like creating composition within After Effects. So right now, to import media to After Effects, what you have to do is double click within this space, or you right click, or if you are not importing through this project panel space, then you can come to File, then you see Import. It will ask you if you want to import one file or multiple files, and so on and so forth. But meanwhile, if you come to Projects, to know if you are within Projects, you will see this white underline under each of the project name that shows you are within the panel. For example, Effect Controls. So once you hit the name of the panel, the white line will come under the panel name. So now you come back to Projects, then you right click, and then you can see Import File, multiple files, and various things that you can import into After Effects. But in this case, I'm going to double click within this space and go to where I want to import my files and folders. All right, right now my computer has displayed the location where I can get my files and folders, but I'll have to go to desktop because that's where I created the folder. So now on desktop, here is the folder where I want to import, and Adobe After Effects, I've created some folders within the Adobe After Effects folder for this class. So if you look under videos, I have some videos to import, photos, and so on and so forth. So we are going to import these two videos by selecting both of the videos and then click on open. Don't worry about all the options or the settings you have over here. Just leave it the way it is. Select your videos or video and then click open. So this way we have imported video into Adobe After Effects. Then you can also import folder into Adobe After Effects. So how do you import folder into Adobe After Effects? Let's right click within this space to import, then import file, and now to do so we'll go to the same folder where we import our video files. Then instead of importing the video files, we are going to import photos. But meanwhile, I won't import all of the photos one after the other. I'll select the folder I want to import, then forget about the settings you have here, then click import. Then it will import all of the folder the same way I have it in my computer, and all of the pictures within the folder will be imported into After Effects. So the next thing you want to see now is how to make use of these files and folders within After Effects. So I'm going to bring one of the image files into the composition to create effect within the timeline. So to do so, you drag, like I just did, drag and drop within this composition area, and then it becomes a layer. So this is what it means to have a layer within After Effects. You can have multiple layers. Let me bring one more layer into the timeline. So right now, if I drag and drop one of these videos, it will become a layer within After Effects. But one thing you have to notice right now is these layers are arranged on top of each other. Then if you look within this screen, if you look within the composition screen, that's where we have our 1920 by 1080. So if you look within this composition screen, you notice the image file is overlapped on the video file. So if you want the image file to be behind the video file, all you just need to do is click on the image file within the composition area, then drag down below the other video file or below any file, any layer you want it to appear. So in this case, I dragged the image file below the video file. So right now the video file is showing on top of the image file. So we are going to make use of the image file first, and I'm going to make invisible the video layer. So how do I make it invisible? If you look at the icon here, the icon says video, hides video if any from composition. So once you toggle this off, your layer becomes invisible. Then once you toggle it on again, the layer becomes visible. Now the other one you see over here is the audio. Now the audio functionality of that layer, which is the video was recorded with audio, so After Effects is going to indicate that your video has audio. So to toggle the audio on and off, you use this icon over here. So I don't want the audio to play and I don't want the video to be visible, so I'm toggling both off. So right now what I have is just the image. So what I'm going to do right now is to show you how to create a simple animation within After Effects. So how do we get to do this? Make sure your line, the timeline, is at the beginning of the timeline. So what you will do in that case is you click on this blue line, then you drag to the beginning. It doesn't have to be at the beginning. It depends on the type of work you want to do. So in this case, we want it to be at the beginning so that our animation will start from the beginning of the timeline. So the next thing you want to do is you want to open this arrow to see the properties of this layer, because every layer has its own properties. The properties are the same except for if you have a video that has audio, or if you have image, you know, just little difference within the properties. So now this is what it looks like. One of the properties of every layer is transform. Now within transform, if you open transform, you see other properties that you can make adjustments to create transition, to create animation for this particular layer. So now, one after the other, if you notice under transform, we have anchor point, position, scale, rotation, and opacity. So if you make adjustments to all of the values of these properties, you will create animation for the image that we have here. So let's check one of the properties and see how we can animate our image. Now, one that we have to do right now is, let's see what happens if we animate using scale. So how do you animate using scale? What you will do is this stopwatch over here. Once you click on this stopwatch, it creates keyframe. So what's a keyframe? A keyframe is what you use to set any layer or shape or whatever media you have within After Effects. A keyframe is what you use to set them in motion, and that's where your motion graphics design starts from. So if you understand what keyframes are and how to make proper use of them, then you can create unlimited, limitless motion graphics designs. So let's see how keyframe works. So once you click the stopwatch, it creates the first keyframe for you. Now notice, let me take the blue line away. This is what a keyframe looks like. So we have created our first keyframe. Notice when I was creating the keyframe, I did not change any of the values we have for scale. So 100 remains the same. Now we are going to create the second keyframe close to the first keyframe. Now, to create the second keyframe, you don't use the stopwatch again. To create the second keyframe, the stopwatch is only used to initialize your keyframe, create the first keyframe. So once the first keyframe is created, to create second or subsequent keyframes, you have to use the icon you can see over here that says add or remove keyframe at current time. So what's the current time? The current time is the blue line you see over here, and this is the current time, which is 24 frames. So at 24 frames, I'm adding another keyframe by clicking on this icon here, and it sets another keyframe for me. Notice at these 2 points, I have not changed the value of scale. It's still 100. Now I'm going to create one more keyframe by moving forward in time, which is at a second 20 frames. Now I'm going to create another keyframe here. Let me move forward a bit. I'm going to create another keyframe here at 2 seconds 13 frames. So I'll click on this icon again, and it will create a keyframe for me. Now this is the method you should use all the time when you are setting your keyframe. Make sure you set your keyframes first before you start setting the value or adjusting the value for the property that you want to animate at that particular point in time. So now I'll take my line to the first keyframe because that's where we want to start animating from. Then how do I move it to this particular keyframe? Now if you say you want to drag the line, yes, it's possible, but imagine where you will not get the precise or the exact point where your line should be. What do? And you want to move between your keyframes. That's when these two buttons you see over here, the two icons over here, that's where they come into play. Now if you want to go to next keyframe, you use this button here, or if you want to go to previous keyframe, then this is the icon that you click on. So now I'm going to use this to go to the first keyframe on our timeline. So clicking on this will take the line to the first keyframe. Now this when adjustments of these two values for scale starts from. Now you will notice in front of scale, there's two hundreds, 100 and 100. What is it meant for? Now the first 100 is in the X position, while the second 100 is in the Y position. Same goes for position, and same goes for anchor point. And anyone you see that has two values with a comma in this case is on a X and Y axis. So what does X mean? X means if you want to move your layer from horizontal you want to move your layer to left or right, so you adjust the X value here by dragging the position to sorry, scale I mean, for X position of scale, it means you want to reduce the width of this layer. So how do you reduce the width of the layer? That means once you unlock the X and Y axis, you can adjust the value individually. So the first 100, if you change the value by dragging to left, it shrinks the layer and makes the width a little bit smaller. Now I'll undo the change and make sure it's back to 100. Then if you also change the value of the other y-axis, either by dragging it to the left or by dragging it to the right, this is what happens. It changes the height of that layer. So I'm going to undo it again and make sure that the layer is locked, so that by the time I adjust the value of X and Y, it's, you know, happens at the same time. So the height and the width is adjusted all at the same time. So this is what it looks like. So now I'm going to click, hold and drag to the left, and now I have created a new value for scale at this keyframe. So I'm going to move forward to the next keyframe and make sure my scale is increased a little bit from 100. So I'm not going to hold and drag. The second method is to just click within this space, then input the value that you want. So I'm going to make it 110, then hit enter. Once I hit enter, you notice the other value will change to 110. The reason is because I have logged my scale. So whatever happens on the Y, on the width, will happen on the height also. So right now I'll hit enter and you notice I have 110, 110. So my position, my scale at this keyframe has also changed. Then I'll go to the next scale. So the scale over here is 100. I'm going to leave it the way it is. So the animation I want to create now, by going to the first keyframe, you will see by hitting the space key on the keyboard, or by going to preview. If you go to preview panel, then you see this play button. So you can preview what you have done on the composition timeline by using this play button, or just hit space key on the keyboard. So this is what we are going to have. Okay, so let me play it one more time. So what I have just done here is going to the first keyframe. I told After Effects to reduce the scale of this layer from 100 to 75. Then from 75, go to the next keyframe and make it 110, bigger than the original size. Then go to the third frame and reduce it to the original size, which is 100. And that's exactly what After Effects has just done over here. So let me play it again. All right, so you can play with any of the settings that you can see over here to create different motion for your layer, but we are going to apply one more motion to this layer, and that is position. So in this position, what I want to do is just pay attention to where I'm going to start my keyframe from. Now we are not starting our keyframe from beginning of the timeline. We are going to start from this point. You can start from any point you want, but make sure you don't start from the top of these other keyframes, because it's going to affect how the keyframes here performs, unless you know what you are doing. So if you want, you can start anywhere on top of the keyframes, but in this case I want us to start from here, so you can easily see what this one have done, what the scale animation has done to our layer and what the position animation can also do to our layer. So you can create as many animation, as many keyframes as possible on one particular layer. So let's create another keyframe. So to start setting our keyframe for position, you have to click on the stopwatch first. Then you need to set the first keyframe. Then immediately you set the first keyframe. The icons you can see over here, the option will be available. So you can now move forward a little bit, just some few frames forward, let's say to this particular point. Then you can set another keyframe. Then going back to the first keyframe. So what I want on this first keyframe is I want this layer to maintain its position, meaning at the center point here. I want it to maintain the position. Then I want this layer to move a little bit to the end of the screen here on this keyframe. So how do I do that? This is my X position and this is my Y position. So X position means I'm moving on the horizontal on the horizontal part of the screen, and Y position means I'm moving on the vertical part of the screen. So this is how it's going to happen. Now notice, like I told you, I'm not going to set any value for the first keyframe because I want it to start from this particular point. Now going to the second keyframe, I'm going to work on the X position only, and then I won't do anything to the Y position. The two positions are not logged. The X and the Y, they are not logged, unlike scale. So what I'll do now is I'll click, then drag my position to any point that I like. In this case, I'm going to leave it this way. So this is what I want right now. So if I take my keyframe back to the first keyframe, then I play back using this button over here. That's what happens. So let's play all of our keyframes from beginning and see what is going to look like. All right, that's just a simple animation using Adobe After Effects, and we have come to the end of this class today. I'll appreciate if you try to practice all that you have seen today. If you have questions, don't forget, come to the Telegram group and post your questions within the group. We are going to attend to your questions one after the other. Make sure you practice and practice. So it's going to be very easy for you to understand by next time when we are going to hold this class. I appreciate your joining us today, and don't forget, our next class, day 2 of our next class, is coming up next week. Thank you.